Hello. Sorry, we're live. Sorry, I was just looking at the other stream. Hello, guys. Welcome to DR Sports Transfer Daily, live at 5. My name's Nicky Hawkins, and we're not in the studio today, as you can see. There is a lot of transfer news breaking, so we're going to be bringing all of that news to you. But because we're not in the studio, and the guys over in the We Are Tottenham TV studio are in their studio, we've been given the opportunity to get them guys in. So Ben and Sim from We Are Tottenham TV, welcome to DR Sports. We've got a lot of West Ham stuff to talk about. We've got a lot of Tottenham stuff to talk about. We're going to be talking about some Arsenal stuff. We're going to be talking about some Palace stuff. But boys, how are we?
We're great, mate. We're great. We're on top of the world, Good signing coming the other day. Signed, sealed and delivered. Bit of iffy news about the Morgan Gibbs-White deal today, but Spurs are splashing the cash and I'm all here for it, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it looks like they are winning the transfer window at the moment. Tottenham, they're really going for it. But so the stories we've got today, you've got the thing in front of you. We've got to start with one place and one place only, and that is Morgan Gibbs-White. Morgan Gibbs-White. Obviously, here we go from Fabrizio Romano yesterday. What the information that I've got here, I've just walked into the studio and it says Morgan Gibbs-White's transfer to Tottenham is in jeopardy. Nottingham Forest have proposed a transfer to be off for now. They have contacted their lawyers over potential legal action and have stopped all communication with Tottenham as things stand. Nottingham Forest believe Tottenham made an illegal approach to the player and have never granted permission for them to speak to him. They also believe that there has been a breach in confidentiality around his release clause. It's not yet clear if Nottingham Forest are yet able to block the transfer entirely. However, it is now expected to be delayed as Forest prepare a complaint to the Premier League, reports Sky Sports News. Now, boys, you are in the middle of all of this sort of controversy. Obviously, Nottingham Forest not quite as happy as West Ham to be dealing with Tottenham as it stands, as it is now. As it stands now, the transfer is off. But are you still confident that this one's going to go forward?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're all pretty confident. I think Marinakis is known to kind of start legal proceedings when things don't go his way. And he's done it before. He complained to the Premier League about VAR. He's complained to UEFA about the Crystal Palace situation, which, they've been demoted as well. But he has been known to do this, Marinakis. I think he's trying to get a bit more money out of Tottenham. He's trying to strong arm them with legal proceedings. I think, to be fair, he is probably correct. We probably have approached him illegally, and we probably have found out about this release clause that we shouldn't have known about. That's all true. But if every transfer deal was scrutinized and every team was sued over an illegal approach, I think every single transfer this season in Premier League would have probably been scrutinized in the same way, because in modern day football, every club talks for either via intermediaries or any other kind of way to players before they make a transfer. No transfers are done in the old school ways where you just approach the club and then you deal with the player. It's not done like that anymore. I think it's an open secret. That's how transfers are done. So I do think Marinakis is just spitting his toy out the pram. I think this deal will get over the line. I think it's a phenomenal bit of business from Tottenham. I understand that Marinakis is a bit salty because maybe he feels like, could he have gotten a bit more money out of Tottenham if they didn't know about the release clause? But at the end of the day, he agreed to have the release clause in the contract. He would only have that fee in the contract if he was comfortable letting Morgan Gibbs-White go for that amount. So I think he has to get over it.
Yes, Ben. What's the? I mean, this can't be good for the player. This can't be good for the player. The player obviously wanted to go. What is the point in having a release clause if no one knows about the release clause? I mean, the player would have had to put that into the contract, right? So, what sort of standing do Tottenham have with Forest? If they didn't want the release clause to be met. I mean, it's obviously been a secret. I saw interviews with Wolfie yesterday from Forest Fan TV, and he was saying like nobody knew about the release clause. Yeah. Even their own fans didn't know about the release clause. Yeah. So it's not been advertised. If you're going to reach a release clause, is it the fact that they wanted you to just bid until that release clause has been met, or was it the fact that he was trying to hide the release clause to try and get more out of the player in terms of signing a new contract, eventually getting rid of that release clause, because he's going to be worth big money. He's been one of their best performers.
Yeah, I think it's exactly that in terms of the latter point that you're making. He's trying to maximize the most amount of money that he can just get from the player. Basically, you heard at the back end of last season, Man City were heavily interested in Morgan Gibbs-White. They were about a fee was bouted around for about 70 to 80 million, something along that figure. So when you think you're getting that sort of money, and then suddenly Spurs just come in, swoop in, and meet that release clause, which he thought it was like, locked away and nobody knew about it. He's obviously got a bit angry and a bit frustrated about it when he's thinking he's going to get a bit more money for him. And I think Spurs have taken him by surprise a little bit. And Marinakis, like my brother said, he's spitting his dummy out of his mouth at this moment in time. And I think, look, the deal will get done. We all know right now that Morgan Gibbs-White has agreed a deal to join Tottenham. Morgan Gibbs-White wants to leave. He was supposed to have his medical today. The deal will get done one way or another. It's just about what the makeup of the deal is. Are Spurs going to pay a bit of extra money? Daniel Levy drives a hard bargain as well himself. So I think Daniel Levy and Marinakis going head to head on this one. It might take a little bit of time, but I think the deal will get done. I think Morgan Gibbs-White wants it to happen. Spurs want it to happen. And I think Marinakis at this point in time is probably resigned to the fact of losing him, but he just wants a bit more money.
Yeah, I don't know whether he's going to get more money because, as we all know, Levy's a shrewd negotiator in the transfer market. We know that. You've got Kudus for a lot, £30 million under what his release clause was, and he knows we're desperate to sell. So I just can't see how this ends well for anybody really. For Forest, I think it just delays Morgan Gibbs-White's transfers. I think it frustrates the fans. I think when it comes to transfers, I think when you've got a transfer going through, if there's a release clause, you've got to honour the release clause. And I think that this is just the way that they sort of like stick their oar in and stop the release clause from being met straight away. They know they can't stop him. They know if he wants to go to Tottenham that he's going to go to Tottenham. I just don't see how this ends well because and you guys know as well, in terms of a transfer, think back to Sol Campbell back in the day. You just want to know whether he's going to stay or whether he's going to go.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Like,
absolutely. You want to just get past it. Like if he's going to leave, if he's shown willing to leave your football club, and we will come to Mohamed Kudus in a minute. Don't worry about that, guys, in the chat. If they're showing a willing to leave the football club, there's no way back from that from the fans. You know what I mean? Like they might sign another contract out of a bit of spite or whatever, or to sort of try and win back that fan base. But once you've said you want to leave the football club and you're willing to let the football club go, a football club just holding people back is not going to do anyone any favours.
Yeah, I do think it's like a different situation, obviously, the Kudus and the Gibbs-White one, because obviously the rivalry between Spurs and West Ham, not too much of a rivalry between Nottingham Forest and Spurs. And if he says he wants to go to play Champions League football for Spurs or for Man City, I don't think the fans will hold him as much against him as maybe the West Ham fans would with Mohamed Kudus. So I think Morgan Gibbs-White maybe is a bit of a different situation to that. So I thought maybe there is a potential way back if he was to go back into training, try his hardest and sign a contract, that there is a way back for Gibbs-White. But for Kudus, no way.
I think this all could be very performative for Marinakis as well. Maybe the fact that it's caught a lot of the fans on the blind side as well as maybe the club. He might want to just make it look like he's trying to have a fight to keep him, essentially, instead of just bowing to Tottenham for 60 million. Obviously, it's frustrating. We've met that release clause, and a lot of the fans would be surprised that they could be losing Gibbs-White for that kind of fee, considering, as Ben said, Man City were rumoured to be bidding more higher fee than that. So the fact that all of a sudden Tottenham swooped in for the 60 million, that's going to be obviously for the frustration, a lot of Forest fans who are seeing the news. So maybe Marinakis just wants to basically show this impression. He's fighting all he can to do to keep Kudus. But at the end of the day, I think there's nothing he can do. I think it's going to get done.
Yeah, I think it's going to get done as well. And just quickly, boys, what do you know about Wharton to Tottenham?
Oh, well, we have heard a few murmurings behind the scenes. ITK is saying that Spurs are going to go for Adam Wharton after sealing Kudus and potentially getting Gibbs-White as well. But there's no real concrete evidence to suggest that Spurs are actually going to go try get him. I think Palace are going to drive a real hard bargain for Adam Wharton. I think it's going to be north of 85 million. And you're looking at Eberechi Eze, who's got that release clause, 68 million.
Yep.
You're talking about Mark Gehi, who's got a year left, rumoured to go to Liverpool. If those two deals get over the line, they're not going to budge on Wharton.
Yeah, I agree. We will talk about Kudus a little bit later. Let's go to Palace then, as we're right there at the moment with that news. Palace have been demoted to the Conference League, so this is official. It's just broken. It's not that long ago, but UEFA announced Crystal Palace won't be playing in the Europa League next season. Palace will play in the Conference League per UEFA rules. Crystal Palace have been demoted to the Conference League next season, with Nottingham Forest set to replace them in the Europa League. UEFA has ruled. The governing body's decision stems from Palace breaching its multi-club ownership rule. So that is obviously their owner has got links with Lyon. I think he's actually severed his links or something of the sort of late to try and get Palace into there. Obviously, Lyon have been relegated. It's like a dream team. You remember the old Sky One series, dream team back in the day when I was playing Champions. Cole Fletcher, yeah, when I was playing Champions League football in the Championship, and it was nearly you, wasn't it? It was nearly you that.
Yeah, close, not close enough, but
not close enough, yeah. But yeah, they will be playing in the Conference League now. Who wins here? I see me personally, but a team that hasn't got we've got history in Europe, but we haven't got a good enough pedigree. I love the Conference League. We won the Conference League. We went undefeated in the Conference League. You guys have just won the UEFA Cup. It looks like Forest are falling apart. It looks like Crystal Palace are starting to get stripped of their assets now. What one would you rather be in if you was Crystal Palace? First time, obviously, Cup winners. Haven't played in Europe. I don't know whether they've ever played in Europe, have they? I don't know.
I think so.
Don't think so, no. So what one would you prefer? If it was me, I'd be quite happy about Conference League for them.
Yeah, but it's got to be gutting, having worked so hard, having such a great end to the season, which they were, unbelievable league form, and then going all the way to winning their first ever major trophy in their history. What a day that was. And for that to be soured by this news, the guy, I think his name was John Tixera, I don't know how you pronounce his surname. He seems like a real dope. I saw him on Talk Sport being taken to task by Simon Jordan. He seems to really not know what's going on. He seems to really not care that much as well. He seems to not be the greatest guy to have involved in your football club, in all honesty. Obviously, what he's done with Lyon has been terrible as well, how he's kind of been involved in running that club. And he seems to have been like a silent partner at Crystal Palace, hasn't been kind of in any key decision-making parameters at Crystal Palace. So the fact that Palace have been penalised by this seems extremely harsh. But in terms of, so the question is, who would I rather be? Would I rather be a team who's won their first major trophy and their first time in Europe, but in the Conference League? Or would I rather be Forest, who have been promoted to the Europa League? I think I'd rather be Palace still, because you got that trophy behind you. I can't remember the last time Forest have won a trophy. And you still got, Conference League is still a good competition for them, the first time ever in Europe. So I know Forest will be delighted they'll be promoted to the Europa League, but I think Palace still, with the team they have, the manager they have, and having that first major trophy behind them, I'd still rather be in Palace's position.
Yeah, I agree with you. Just a correction now. I didn't see this news, but Lyon haven't gone down. They appealed against their relegation and they've got away with it. So apologies for that. I did not realise that. So they will be in the top league. They will be playing in the top league next season. But yeah, I tend to agree with, and I know Palace fans are going to be derogatory. Obviously, Tottenham have just won the Europa League. It's a harder competition. Let's be honest. It is a harder competition to win. We went far in it. We was pretty stacked in terms of squad depth. I think Palace have got good squad depth, but it depends on what is there at the end. If Eze goes and if Walton goes, what are they going to be left with? Listen, I think Palace are a fantastically run club. I was delighted with them winning the trophy. I really was, because it's their first ever trophy. And I know their fans are going to have a ball no matter where they go in Europe. But yeah, I've got to agree. But, and on the other hand, Forest might have been looking forward to the Conference League because, again, they're starting to lose a couple of their best players. Alanga's just gone. Morgan Gibbs-White is going to be gone by the time they get there. So I think it's a win-lose for both of them, really.
Yeah, look, I think Forest obviously are ultimate winners going from Conference League and pushing up to the Europa League. But I think when you're looking at Crystal Palace, they'll be gutted to make it down to the Conference League, or get relegated, as you will, to the Conference League. But like you said, it's a competition that they can actually go and win next season. So
yeah, absolutely. I think they've got more than enough.
Once the dust is settled and that initial disappointment is over, and once they start playing in that competition, they'll by the end of next season, they could think of it as like a blessing in disguise, as you will.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let me take a couple of the comments here. Somebody said PSG have paid for them to stay in the league. I don't know what that means, but Lyon haven't gone down. As Crispy Sesh says, let's get real though. English teams are well off. So being in the Conference League isn't so bad. It's still Europe. I did see another one here. What was it? We Are Tottenham TV on DR Sports. What a crossover! I thought I'd never see. Big up, Sim. There we go. Spurs fans chatting to Chelsea. You know your place in the food chain, mate. I don't know what you're saying there, boys. Look, I ain't involved in all of that. But there we go. Listen, I think it is a shame that it comes down to this sort of. And I think football's going to go down these steps a lot. We're seeing a lot of regulations coming in. 2 owners of 2 football clubs in 2 different. I mean, come on, it's a competition at the end of the day. You know what I mean? You got if you're owning 2 clubs, surely just let competition win. You know what I mean? We don't have to keep on demoting teams and so. I mean, if you're going to be, swapping teams around because of rules of multi ownership, you shouldn't be able to own 2 clubs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but also on the flip side of that, Nicky, they've just allowed, or they started allowing recently, I think it was, that loan players can play against their parent clubs. So, I mean, what's that any different in terms of conflict of interest? So, if that's allowed, they should just allow everything and just let people get on with their lives.
Yeah, I mean, you are obviously opening you up to fixing. Let's be honest. It'll be, you can open yourself up to fixing now. But I think if you're worried about that and you're going to start moving club, I mean, Palace are going to be gutted. I think Forest are going to be gutted in terms of maybe preparing for that competition. But if that's the rule and you have to start swapping clubs around to get these into competition, just one club then. You know what I mean? Like you can only own 1 club. Simple as that.
Yeah.
But there we go. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Should they change the rule so you can only own 1 club? Even if you're even if they're across different leagues, in different conference, like in different divisions of that country, different countries.
How do you even rule that though, Nicky? How do you even rule that? Because it's impossible to do that because you can. It's like completely different countries, different entities. Like it's impossible to police that.
Subsidiaries.
But the fact of the matter is this: is that you could end up in the same competition one way or the other. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like. You could get some crazy, say for instance, David Sullivan. If he owned a 3rd division Norwegian team, they could end up winning the Norwegian Cup and getting into the same competition as West Ham. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what do you do then? It'll obviously always be the smaller team that gets chucked out because we know how UEFA is. It's just they want the best teams in the thing, and Lyon, unfortunately, are a bigger name and got a bigger pedigree. I think that's what he went on, isn't it? Pedigree. In Europe than Crystal Palace, unfortunately. And now
I think didn't he go on league position or something? Did he go on league position?
I think so because I think Lyon finished higher because they didn't get rid. I think it's something like that.
Something like that.
They finished like 8th, 7th, or 6th or something. I think it went on that.
Yeah. Unknown 10 says, I know Girona and City were fined in the UCL because City only own like 40% of the club and not a majority stake. So yeah, there has been. Instances where an owner has owned a small majority of another club that are in the same competition and only been fined. So yeah, I think they've been very harshly done by there. Let's get to the next one. Madueke to Arsenal is done. Arsenal and Chelsea have now completed documents exchange for Noni Madueke deal signed and sealed. Madueke will undergo his medical over the weekend and then sign a 5-year deal at Arsenal. £52 million done. As exclusively revealed yesterday. Now, boys, I know you're going to have a little bit of bias here, and I know what we're going to talk about in a minute. What do you think of this deal? Who does this benefit? Does it benefit Arsenal or does this benefit Chelsea?
I think these 2 clubs got a very nice special relationship going on. Arsenal keep giving Chelsea money non-stop. Every single summer we see these 2 clubs doing business, and I think this one. Look, I think. Noni Madueke is a decent player, and I think depends what else Arsenal do this summer in terms of if you can gauge it as a good transfer or not. On the face of it, it doesn't look like great business for over 50 million to bring Noni Madueke over from Chelsea, who, flattered to deceive in a Chelsea shirt last season, in my opinion. If he's literally just coming to be a replacement for Bukayo Saka when he gets injured or bring him off the bench in those instances, then I think it's a good deal and I think it's a good option to have in the squad. But for 52 million, Noni Madueke, it just doesn't sit right with me. And this whole relationship between Arsenal and Chelsea don't sit right with me either, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, now I'm come to think about it, this has been going on for season after season after season.
Yeah.
Jorginho, Peter Cech. I'm sure there's many more that I ain't
David
thinking.
Luiz, Jorginho,
Willian,
Gallas. It goes on forever.
Willian,
Gallas,
Havertz.
Somebody says needs to be investigated. Says a
100%.
Liverpool fan.
I think it does. Because it only came out not long ago that saying that Chelsea needs 60 million or something with the PSR or some sort of financial ruling, and then suddenly there's Arsenal straight away slap 52 million for Noni Madueke. I just can't get my head around.
Are these guys supposed to be rivals or what? What's going on?
Yeah, this is no sort of rivalry.
There's no rival whatsoever.
Is it a case of I scratch your back, you scratch mine, and all that?
Something like that.
But what are Arsenal getting out of this? Because they're just signing rubbish players and spending loads of money and just seem to benefit Chelsea.
Yeah, it's madness. It's complete madness.
But I mean, £52 million. Matt says here, £52 million for a backup is wild. Will he be a backup? Is he a starter for? This one's come out blue for me. I mean, when I was looking at Madueke, I was looking for like a deal with us, maybe. Because I know he's just got into the England side and that, but like a bit like Emil Smith Rowe, dropping down a little bit, playing the football, getting some regular football, learning your football at someone that's not going to be challenging for major honours, which Arsenal want to. But if they keep on signing players like this, are Arsenal going to be challenging for major honours? Because I think that's a nonsense sign. It's really, really bad.
Has to be a backup. I don't really see where there's a place for him in the starting 11. He's more a natural right winger. They have Saka in that position. He's played on the left before, but I don't really think he's a very good option in that position. I think he doesn't like to go on the outside too much and get to the byline. He's not a left winger who likes to basically, like an old school, like hug the touchline kind of winger. He's very much an inverted, cut inside kind of player, dribbly. So the only place I see him is back up to Saka. Obviously, they've got one year at the moment who does that position, who does that role, and he's done brilliantly last season when coming in. So is that going to limit his minutes? If you've got Martinelli at the moment who plays on the left-hand side. Obviously, they're looking to upgrade on him, but I don't think they've signed Madueke to replace Martinelli on the left. That seems very far-fetched. So you're spending 52 million for a player who you've already got a player in that position in Wanyeri. If you're looking to say it's only a good signing if you get someone like Gyokeres, Eze, and Rodrigo on top, how much are Arsenal actually going to spend this window? They've already spent 52 on him. Eze is going to be 68. Gyokeres is going to be, 65 to 70. Zumendi was 45, 50. Rodrigo is going to have to be 80 million. So what, Arsenal going to have a 300 million pound window? Is that what we're saying? Is that realistic? Or are they going to be left disappointed again? I just think spending 50 million on him is ludicrous. I don't see a need for him. They've got Wanyeri there right now, and they're risking him not signing a contract by bringing Madueke through the door as well. It seems like a madness signing. It doesn't really make sense to me.
What I don't understand is they've been haggling over £5-6 million for Gyokeres, it seems. Yeah. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, they just whacked down £52 million for Madueke out of the blue. I mean, they could have started at 30, and I reckon they would have got somewhere in between.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, to just whack down 52 million, it does seem very, very strange, like very, very odd. When you're Arsenal's priority should be a centre forward. Gyokeres fits that to a T, and you're haggling over £5-6 million. And in the meantime, I know Trossard has been rumoured to be leaving, or he is leaving, but to whack £52 million on a replacement for Trossard while you're haggling over £5-6 million for the striker you desperately need, the striker that's cost you the title over the last couple of seasons, I think it's crazy. It starts to make me question, and I know people are going to be in the chat, or what do you know, you're a West Ham fan. It just starts to make me question Arteta's intelligence in these things. You know what I mean? Like, prioritise what you've got to get in. Otherwise, you're not going to go anywhere.
If you look at the business he has done since taking over as manager of Arsenal in the forward line, it actually needs to be called into question.
100%
it has to be called into question. He hasn't. I don't know if his talent ID in the forward line isn't great. Look, defensively, fantastic. In midfield, signed some very good players. Up front, who have they signed? They signed Kai Havertz, Gabriel Jesus, Madueke, Trossard. these guys are not going to be getting you to where you want to be, which is competing with Man City and competing with Liverpool, winning titles. Those players, yes, maybe all of them could be good backups, but he signed all of them, a lot of them, to be starters and to be their main men, and it's never going to work. I think his talent ID when it comes to the forward line, either he's looking for something which we don't know about, and he's looking for certain profiles and certain characteristics which he requires when they play, or his talent ID isn't up to scratch when it comes to comparing with the forward line of the teams they're challenging with.
And I think Arsenal fans are starting to sit up and take notice of that at the moment. I've never seen a backlash to a signing like I've seen from this one, from the Arsenal fans. I don't know if you saw the graffiti that was outside the Emirates this morning.
Hashtag no to
Arteta out and no to Madueke and all that. I mean, it's quite unbelievable. Arteta has signed more goalkeepers at his time at Arsenal than forwards.
That's crazy when you're literally missing, the centre forward. They've been a couple of goals short of a title over the last couple of years, out of nowhere. Let's be honest, they come out of nowhere because, I think they just got a little bit lucky with the likes of Saliba and Gabriel stepping up, and their defence sort of coasted them for a couple of seasons. They got quite lucky with Havertz hitting the ground running when he came, but they've been a centre forward short. When it comes to the crunch, I know Man City weren't on it yesterday, but when it came to the crunch, whose goals won Man City the league? It was Erling Haaland, hands down. You know what I mean? You take them goals away, they finish mid-table, I think it comes along. So, I think his priorities are wrong, and that's my opinion.
And is there a bit of a coincidence that I think Chelsea had to offload 60 million by a certain date? And is all of a sudden is that too much of a coincidence that they're getting this money from Arsenal just in time? Seems very dodgy.
Crazies, isn't it? Yeah. Let us know in the comment section. Clara Bitsy, who is a long-time viewer and a long-time donator to Super Chats on DR Sports. Thank you very much for getting in contact with Clara. Yes, I know it's not your normal DR crew in here at the minute, but they've asked, just as we get onto the conversation, who finishes higher this season, West Ham or Spurs? Now, can I answer this one, boys?
Yeah, you go for it.
Go for it.
It's Spurs by a long shot, mate. By a long, long way, to be quite honest with you. I am not confident. Listen, you never know. You can never say never in football. Football's played on grass, not paper. But I'm going to tell you now, from where I'm sitting, Spurs by a long way. There you go. And I know a lot of Arsenal fans in here are not going to want to hear that. So,
who am I to disagree with you, Nicky? I'll let you have that one.
Boys, I know you're not going to disagree with me. You know what I mean? I know what you're going to say. So I just thought I'd take the sting out of the tail for me already. Oscar Bob the Goat says Kudus would have been a better overall value deal than Madueke. Heck, even Grealish makes more sense with his ability to create set pieces through fouls. And forwards have been from Chelsea, says Sam. We were talking about them not signing forwards and signing goalkeepers. I think one of the goalkeepers have been from Chelsea even. Arsenal could have gotten Kvara. Is that Kvara? The winger, and Marmoush for 140 million if they moved in January to sort out their offence. Arsenal not moving for Marmoush in January, low-key, one of the worst decisions. And Malachi says, as a Spurs fan, I respect your honesty. West Ham are being relegated. Now, let's get round to it then, boys. I know that there's a lot of people in the chat, and there's as I said the other day on your channel, I've heard a lot more from your fans than I've heard from my own fans at the minute. But we've got to talk about that announcement video. A little bit tongue-in-cheek. I think he's painted a target from his back. Somebody did make a good point the other day, saying he might have painted a target on his back, but how are you going to get to him? Because you're all going to run out of breath before you get to the pitch, even if you wanted to mob him. Which I do respect. But it was a bit of tongue in cheek, wasn't it? That announcement video, and I was gutted, to be quite honest with you, to see that.
Nicky, from your seats, you probably need to take a pair of binoculars just to see him on the pitch anyway. So, no, in terms of you saying he paints a target on his back, which is fair to say from West Ham fans, but also if you look on the flip side of that, he straight away ingratiates himself with the Spurs fan base and makes himself a mini hero from the off, saying that kind of stuff. So look, there's two ways you can look at it. There's only twice a season he's going to play against West Ham, and he's going to be playing at Spurs Stadium and for Spurs every single week. So he's just trying to form that connection straight away, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, we see a very similar thing with Declan Rice when he went to Arsenal, and it rubbed a lot of people up the wrong way. But Arsenal is not Tottenham, let's be honest, in terms of when we sell to them, who we don't like selling to. I I've got to say, as I said before, the jury's still out on this one for me, and I'm always going to say that because I have seen the man in the flesh. I've seen the best of the man. I've seen the worst of the man. I think you'll see the best of the man at the start. Now, does this stuff with this, because this is the second time he's done this. He's done it to Ajax. And I think the last person that done this to us, who done this to Stoke, was Marko Arnautovic. And within 2 seasons, he was on his way out the door, saying, goodbye, I'm going to China, whatever. Does this sort of thing start to look at you and start to question his character? Is this guy, this is, in our minds as well, and I know that a lot of Tottenham fans will bring that. This is a rivalry. This guy has blatantly turned around and went, I only wanted Spurs. That's a kick in the teeth to the people that have been supporting you for 2 years and watching a load of shite, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, and I think I understand that. And as well, as a fan of the club who's signing him, obviously you're looking at the player and you're thinking, he's doing that to West Ham, obviously now, and obviously he refused to go to training, or he turned up late for training for 2 days. He put the transfer request, so he did all those stuff, and that's obviously as a Tottenham fan wanting him to sign for Tottenham, I don't really mind. But if you're just a fan looking at the player and deciding, is this the kind of character you want? Obviously, he's doing it to West Ham now. Is he going to be doing that to Tottenham in 2 years' time? Putting in transfer requests, turning up late for training to force a move. So those are definitely a few red flags. You've got to hope that Tottenham can be a home for him and somewhere where he can fulfill his ambitions and he won't get disillusioned at a place like Tottenham like he did get West Ham for one reason or another. And obviously, the character, he must have had a conversation with Frank. Frank definitely has for want of a better term, he had a no dickheads policy at Brentford, and he wouldn't want that kind of character, a character who's going to ruffle up the dressing room or anything like that. He's going to want someone who's completely committed and wants to be at Tottenham for the long term. So obviously, he's only had conversations with Kudus. He's not going to know him intimately, as a person. He can only go off character references and all that kind of stuff. So he's made the judgment call. He wants to bring him in, so we have to trust that. But 100%, the fact that he's done all, I wouldn't say necessarily the video is a red flag, but I'd definitely say how he's left West Ham isn't in the best way, and he hasn't dealt with it the most professional way. But then again, sometimes you do have to do that to force a move. Harry Kane refused to turn up to training. You wouldn't say he's not a model professional because we all know who he is. So some players, sometimes that does happen, and sometimes that's the situation. But definitely it's something to keep an eye on. But in terms of, I have heard West Ham fans saying, "Oh, he's burnt all bridges now." Like after that video, I'm like, he left for Tottenham. If the bridges weren't burned just after the move, I don't know what more he could do to burn bridges. He's went to the enemy. He's forced to move there. I know he's done this video saying he only wanted Tottenham. But at the end of the day, he made that move, and that move alone should be enough to burn the bridges.
Bridges as soon as he came out. David Ornstein came out, or Romano, whoever it was, and says he only wants Spurs. That's when he burnt all bridges.
I disagree, but on the other hand, he's never going to come back to West Ham. It's not going to be like he's going to go to Tottenham and then he's going to think, oh, Jesus Christ, I made a mistake. Yeah, I really loved it at West Ham. Well, if he's going to Tottenham, he's going on to he'll go back abroad eventually.
Say it, Nate. Bigger and better.
He's going to go on to bigger and better. That's what he's thinking in his mind. He's going on to bigger and better things. He's going to play in the Champions League. He's not going to turn around. It's not going to be a situation where, it's not. We're not Arsenal who have just missed out on the Premier League twice, and he's gone to a different club and think, oh, maybe I shouldn't have left it. We're a club with no direction at the moment. And I'm not afraid to admit it. We've got no direction. We've got an owner that doesn't know how to run a club. It's not like he's going to turn up at Tottenham and go, do you know what, fucking hell, like in January, I really want to go back to West Ham. He's never going to be back here. So he doesn't care about burning bridges. So I've got to respect that. I've got to respect that. But in the other ways, it just starts to. He makes himself an instant hero. You are correct. He makes himself an instant hero. It gives you ammunition to kick us in the teeth, and it's not the fans' fault. And that's the thing that pisses me off. It's not the fans' fault. The fans supported him. He didn't turn up. We did. I'm there every week. I'm there with my season ticket. I paid my money. I go to see Mohamed Kudus, whether he's electric or he's absolutely terrible. Yeah, he was the one that didn't turn up for us, not us not turn up for him. And that's what starts to wind me up, because now he's giving ammunition to sort of stick the boot in. And listen, this is football, and, we got to take it on the chin. One day you'll have to take it on the chin. Another day Arsenal will have to take it on the chin. We've all been round in circles, but it just leaves a little bit of a stinging sensation, because we liked Mohamed Kudus, and when I think they say he burned all bridges, I think what they're talking about is there was a lot of people that didn't blame Mo Kudus for going to Tottenham. He's going to come back and have a bad reception because he plays for Tottenham. Simple as that. If it, Freddie Canute had it, Defoe had it. Carrick would have had it if he'd have stayed there. If we'd have been up there. Parker would have had it if we'd have been in the same league at the time. So you're always going to get a bad reception talking to Tottenham. But what I think a lot of people were saying is that they blamed the ball because they were forcing him out. And what do you expect a man to do? Because there's only one club really in the bidding for him. What do you expect him to do? Turn down a move? He can't do that. As soon as he's linked with Tottenham, he can't come back. He'll be booed. It's going to be uncomfortable for him. But I think the thing what they're saying is that why the fury was being directed at David Sullivan, and I think this is a frustration of mine. Now he's come out and done that video. All of a sudden, now the fury's been directed at him, which is no good for us as a fan base, really, because the onus should be on the owner. It should be.
But Nicky, as well, on the flip side of that, you say like Spurs were the only team in for him, and who else was he going to go to? He could have easily rejected us and wait for other offers to come in if they were to come in, because I'm sure other offers eventually would have come in.
Yeah, and this is, I think they would have eventually, and this is what I said to them. We were too desperate to sell. Yeah. So the onus comes down to the club. They put him in a position where it was only going to be Spurs. So.
Where does this rank for you as a West Ham fan when it comes to traitorous moves? Where is this on your list of players who have left your club?
I don't think it's very high.
No? Personally. Who's number one?
Number one, Paul Ince, without a doubt. I'll never forgive Paul Ince, but there's been some dodgy ones. Defoe was bad at the time, but you can understand it because we was in the Championship, so he was up there.
Okay, so this isn't in the top. This isn't, you wouldn't put this near the top.
No, nowhere near. Because I don't think the guy had a choice. He wasn't given a choice. It wasn't like we wanted to keep him. We wanted him out. So you've got to take that into consideration. Let me just take a quick couple of super chats from Clara Bitsy again. On the West Ham Spurs thing. You finished 3 places higher than Spurs. That was last season. And we're skinned. We've sold all our players and they're signing players. And Clara Bitsy says $5 says you might as well might be unsure of Spurs finishing higher. But one thing I'm sure is of completing a routine double over Spurs up the Chelsea.
Who does a routine? Is that a West Ham fan?
No, Chelsea
fan. Oh, Chelsea fan. Oh, right, fine, fair enough.
Yeah, we don't say much about that. Double at all, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
To be fair, Thomas Frank has an unbelievable record at Stamford Bridge.
He does.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
And Nicky, quick, who's got the better deal? Madueke for Arsenal or Kudus for Spurs? What's the better deal for you?
Kudus for Spurs.
You reckon Kudus Spurs?
It's got to be Kudus for Spurs. He's got more pedigree, I think.
I think you were saying you were unsure on the deal, so just making sure that's what you still think. Yeah.
Yeah, no. I think Kudus to Spurs. I think if you're going to spend £52 million on Madueke, I think you should have at 24 years old, £55 million for Kudus would have been a steal. I don't know why, and then it would have saved us a lot of suffering. So there we go. That's the only reason I say that. But right, so. Jackson leaving Chelsea, talking about Chelsea. Clara Ritchie will be I don't know whether he's going to be overmooned about this. This is a player I've never rated, to be quite honest with you, but there we go. Nicholas Jackson has chances to leave Chelsea this summer. After Madueke to Arsenal, he could be the next one to try a new chapter elsewhere. AC Milan asked for Jackson, but Chelsea asking price is still too high. Premier League clubs are also keen and informed. Is this a player that Tottenham could pop up and go and get? Nicholas Jackson, is it someone that would be interesting to that sort of level, Champions League level teams in the Premier League?
I don't know if Spurs are going to go for him. I think Chelsea and Spurs historically as well haven't done business with each other. But
we haven't done business for 14 years, mate, but that went out.
Yeah, I think Chelsea's even longer. Who's the last player that Spurs and Chelsea did business with? It was like Gus Poyet or something.
Kudus.
Gallas we got on a free. I mean, he was a free agent on the back of an Arsenal.
Arsenal, that's right. Yeah, he went. Forgot about that.
But
I can't remember.
Look, let me just paint this picture for you. Arsenal and Gyokeres can't agree with Sporting Lisbon. Who else is there to turn to but Chelsea once again to get them out of the mud with Nicholas Jackson going over to the Emirates? I can see it happening right now.
I mean,
can you imagine?
Actually, that wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me either, to be quite honest with you. After what's just happened, has he been a player you've ever rated? I mean, I think the guy's got talent, but in terms of a top class forward, nowhere near.
But he's at a decent age, isn't he? I think he needs to improve his finishing. That's the main thing with Nicholas Jackson. I think he's got all the attributes to actually be a really good forward in the Premier League. He's big, he's strong, he's athletic, he's quick. I just think if he knuckled down his finishing and really honed in and improved that to a decent level, I think he could be a really good striker in the Premier League.
Are we not talking about another Timo Werner here, though? Because that is all of the
yeah, it's true.
Exactly all of the stats that I've just heard from when he was at Leipzig.
Yeah,
he was phenomenal. Went to Chelsea. He's great. He's got great talents, but he needs to improve his finishing. Goes back to Leipzig, then goes to Tottenham, and you know what he's like. He just he doesn't improve. He didn't improve, and he's in the mud now.
Yeah, I think I like Jackson. I think he just lacks so much composure in front of goal. That's his big problem. He's he's such a handful. He is such a handful for any defenses, even the very best defenses. He gives them all the runaround. He's always so difficult for opposition defenses to keep at bay. He always seems to get chances. The problem for him is he just lacks that calmness in front of goal. He does snatch at chances a lot. Sometimes when he has too much time to think about a chance as well, he ends up screwing it up. When he has like very little chance to think, when he's playing on instinct, he has a first-time finish, or he just has to power it in. Sometimes that works best for him, but when he's one-on-one and he's got either, do I round the keeper, do I put it in the corner, or do I dink it, all these different things, it gets to his head too much and he overthinks things and he ends up screwing it up. So I think, as Ben said, he's still young. He's got time to improve those things. But at the end of the day, when you're at a club like Chelsea, time doesn't wait for you. They're ruthless. How much turnover have they had over the last couple of years of players? Look at Madueke. He didn't sign too long ago, and now he's out the door. So many. If they're right now for Chelsea, they're signing loads of players, but you're only basically a year away from you being replaced. They've done this project.
When it comes to Chelsea and signings, we know they've been finding loopholes left, right, and centre. They've been finding loopholes better than a seamstress. It seems like, and it just seems like they buy people to sell on, to make profit, so they can keep on spending. So they can, we spoke about this last year on DR. £1.5 billion spent.
Yeah.
What have they got for £1.5 billion? What quality have they got for £1.5 billion? I think Crystal Palace have been in better positions in terms of the quality they've got. Real talent for £1.5 billion. It just seems like, and it seems like Arsenal are in on it as well. This sort of like this churning out of talent that they're just going to go to sell on for big profits.
Yeah, I mean, look, you say that, but I still think they've got a very good team. I think they're very much going to be nailed on, or very close to being, for the top 4 next season. But for £1.5 billion, you want to be fighting for titles, and you want to be up there with the Man Cities and the Liverpools and what have you. But they've got a very young squad. I think the youngest squad in the Premier League last season. And you're seeing them improve. I think Maresca's doing a good job there. Got them in the top 4 last season. They're in the final of the Club World Cup as well. And they look like they're in good shape going into the new season.
Clary Bitsy's $5. It says that's true that Jackson scores, yet that didn't stop him from scoring an hat-trick at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I'll tell you who else didn't stop him: the defenders that have been sent off and kept on.
Yeah, exactly. 9 men, high line.
Yeah, high line for life, mate, and all that sort of thing. Well, it's not going to be a high line next season. I can guarantee that. Let's go on to Victor Gyokeres then. He will not show up at training at Sporting today. Tomorrow or at any moment in the summer. His decision is clear, as reported during the week. He only wants Arsenal. We've just heard that from someone else. It's over with Sporting. Gyokeres is also informed Sporting president about that about 5 days ago. So again, we're talking about why were they sort of haggling over 5 million. Maybe this is why they're haggling over 5 million, because they've got the upper debt. Again, when you talk about Gibbs-White, this has got to be this may go to sort of like some sort of tribunal somewhere, because this sounds like a classic case of tapping up.
Yeah, I mean, it's an open secret. Arsenal are going for Gyokeres. I think everyone knows about it. I think this is, again, how modern day transfers are done. They've clearly got into Gyokeres' ear. They've talking to his agent or intermediaries about their interest, and so they've decided
Arsenal decided to tell Gyokeres, look, you're going to have to put pressure on Sporting. Apparently he had some sort of gentleman's agreement or something, or some sort of agreement with Sporting. He could leave for a certain fee. They seem to be not upholding their end of the bargain. They're now deciding to put like an extra 10 million or so on the fee. I think Arsenal want to pay something like 55 million plus 10 or something million add-ons. I think, and apparently Sporting probably wants 75 now, they're saying. It seems to go up every day, what they want, or maybe 80 million euros. So Arsenal clearly have got into Gyokeres. They're saying, look, if you want this deal, if you want this to happen, you're going to have to force it through. You're going to have to put in a transfer request. You're going to have to not turn up for training and really make things a bit ugly and force Sporting's hand here, which I don't think anyone likes to see, except for you if you're a fan of the team buying the player. So obviously, that if you're Sporting, you can go it two ways. Either you give in and say, look, we don't need this headache. Let's just kind of agree for the fee they're paying. Or do you get even more stubborn? Does it harden your heart and say, look, we're not letting them bully us. We're not going to counter them. And we're going to stick to our fee. And if that's the case, Arsenal are going to have to pay up. It's going to be interesting to see which way the land falls in this one. If you're Arsenal, if you're Arsenal, surely if either way, like if Sporting are stubborn, you have to pay the money, because this is a guy who could potentially win you the league with the goals he can score. He's a proper goal scorer. He's absolutely monster in front of goal. He's an absolute beast. He's so strong, so fast. He's basically like a Haaland light. He's absolute gobbles up the ground. He's an unbelievable finish in front of goal with both feet. You need to get someone like this in. You need a proper goal scorer in the number 9 position, because that's something they've been lacking for a long time, since probably Aubameyang 5 years ago. So they've really not had that kind of player. So I think this is the kind of player that could maybe make the difference for them. And if they miss out on him for the sake of 5 or 10 million, they'll sorely regret it.
Yeah, I think he's a fantastic player, and I do think he will be. He's going to go there. I don't know whether he's going to be quite the difference to overhaul City or Liverpool, but he's going to certainly go a long way in doing that. But if they keep on wasting their money on people like Madueke, I don't think they will. Callum Lucas says Arsenal not tapped up Gyokeres. They would have obviously have Sporting the legal 7-day notice you're supposed to give a club before you contact them. Yeah, because that's exactly how Arsenal operate. That's exactly how they operate. They do everything by the book.
Arsenal could never do any wrong ever.
Never. Yeah, obviously not. You know what I mean? There was no dinner at Christmas time with a certain West Ham player. I'm telling you now. So if I'm Sporting, after seeing Arsenal pay £52 million for Madueke, I'm holding out for the 80 million for Gyokeres.
100%. It's also crazy how they've spent this money on Madueke and then haggling over Gyokeres when Gyokeres is so much more important. That doesn't make too much sense unless they're very confident that they can get Gyokeres for a lower fee.
I think it's ridiculous the way that Arsenal are handling this transfer. When you see the need for him in the team, the clamour from the fans to get in an unbelievable number 9 to score 20, 30 goals a season, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. If there's any sort of slight chance that this deal can break down, and what you'd say is a high percentage that he's still going to go to Arsenal, but there is still a percentage there to say that another team can come in just straight away, slap that money down on the table, and it gives Gyokeres a decision to make. So if Arsenal have got to just slap that money down on the table and being like, look, this player's ours, let's just get on with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's go on to the last story then before we talk about the World Cup, which crazy. Jordan Henderson, the once Liverpool captain, Champions League winner, obviously, Premier League winner, has completed a medical and signed a 2-year deal at Brentford. Deal done, and here we go. Henderson to replace Christian Norgard at Brentford. Medical now completed. Hendo left Ajax with England as a priority. Club announcement next. England as a priority for Jordan Henderson.
I know.
What is
it's
going
ridiculous. On? And the sad thing about it is Tuchel keeps calling him up. That's the sad thing about it. And I just don't get it. I don't get these squads that Tuchel's naming. I don't get Jordan Henderson at 35, how he's even coming back to the Premier League. They've sold their captain in Norgard to Arsenal and brought in Jordan Henderson. In my opinion, that's a downgrade. I think Jordan Henderson's well past his sell-by date. And at 35 on a 2-year contract, I don't know, man. I don't think this is a good move for them. No.
For a replacement for Norgard as well. I would have. The only one I would have accepted here for Jordan Henderson. Jordan Henderson's lost it. Let's be honest. He hasn't even been good for Ajax, let alone anyone else. Keeps on getting picked for England. When you think about the players that have been left out for England, I think it's an absolute travesty. And coming back to concentrate on England. I mean, the man basically retired and went to the Saudi League, didn't get paid money, so decided to come back. But the only deal I would have accepted at this point of his career was back to Sunderland to retire at Sunderland, and that was in the running that he may go back to Sunderland. There was another club in for him as well, but Brentford's just come out of nowhere. And Art says Jordan Henderson to Brentford is wild.
I think it's a good deal. I think it's a good deal for them.
Yeah, do you really?
I do. I think it's a good deal. I think he's obviously a guy with masses of Premier League experience, which is what they're going to need, having lost their manager, lost their captain, potentially losing one of their star players. They're going to need someone like Jordan Henderson around the place who knows what it's like to play in the Premier League. If they've done the analysis on him and suggesting he can still play at this level, which obviously Tuchel calls him up. I know he calls him up maybe not mostly for footballing reasons, but I don't think if Legs is completely gone, Tuchel would have him in the squad at all. So clearly he can some sort of play at some sort of level. If Brentford are a very smart team, they've got very good recruitment, and if they would have done their analysis, they would have looked at him and said, can this guy do a job for us for 2 years with the experience that he has? Norgard was not exactly young when I know they're replacing with 35-year-old, but Norgard was still 32. Obviously he's 35. He can, if he's played at the top level for many years, he's very experienced. And I think, look, obviously, they're going to need to replace Norgard with a younger player as well. But if they've just added his experience into the dressing room and he can play there, obviously he's not going to be relied upon, I don't think, week on week. But if he can fill in on occasion and step in when need be, I think it's a good player to have around the dressing room. And I think it could help them maybe stay in the league.
In the coaching staff, maybe, but not on the pitch week in, week out. I just can't see it.
I agree with
Ben. Seriously, Jordan Henderson in central midfield starting week in, week out in the Premier League. We're 2025 here.
Then there's no doubt.
Maybe they haven't got him to start week in, week out.
If that's the case, then it's a different story.
There's no doubt in my mind that he's a fantastic player. He's been a fantastic player. Sorry, it gives me Roy Kent vibes from do you know what I mean? It's fantastic. He's one of them no nonsense players. 35-year-old is, he's been arguing with Ajax about playing. Like, there's been nonsense going on over there beyond belief. They didn't want him anymore. He's playing in the Dutch league. But yeah, he really does give me Roy Kent vibes. So talking about Roy Kent and that show, you can go and watch X and Robbie and Expressions on the Best of Enemies. Go and check that out after this show. They're cooking him again, I guess. They cook him every week, it seems. But just
Expressions is going to have him in a frying pan. I'm going to love it.
He's going to have him in a frying pan. You know him, boys. Finally, just before we log off, then, will Chelsea upset the odds and beat Paris Saint-Germain? I'm going to make this very quick, and I'm going to say absolutely not. Paris Saint-Germain are on fire.
I'm going to agree with you. I think Paris Saint-Germain to absolutely blitz them to go on a nice long holiday and not to come back for the Super League, and hopefully the Super League can go a different way.
The rest players
Super Cup, Super Cup.
Yeah, I think they're going to. They've battered Madrid. They've battered both Madrid teams. They've been unbelievable, stellar in this Club World Cup. I think Chelsea have been good as well, but you watch the way they've playing. They're not been as impressive as PSG even during the tournament. I just can't see a way Chelsea beat this super PSG team who have been incredible under Enrique. I think it's going to be another trophy for them.
They're the best team in the world right now. PSG, they're unbelievable to watch.
You know what? Yeah. If a team ever deserved to win the Club World Cup, that they have been ever since Mbappe left. They've been phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal. I went to see. Funny enough, I went to see PSG a couple of years ago when Messi was playing his in his last few games. Neymar had already been outed by them. Mbappe was phenomenal on the day. But I looked at them then and I thought, they're a good side. They're never going to be a well-beaten side, you know what I mean? Yeah. They're never going to be a Real Madrid level. And they are absolutely wiping the floor with anyone that comes in front. I mean, absolutely wiping the floor. That Inter Milan side that they beat in the final, it was a really, really good side. And they wiped the floor with them. I can't see anyone beating PSG at the moment.
Yeah. No. Just wait till the Super Cup, mate. You'll see it.
There we go. Boys, thank you so much. Thanks for all your comments, all your super chats and all that. I didn't miss any, did I? Let's have a look. No, I didn't miss any, but thank you so much for getting involved in the comments. I know it's not your usual hosts. I know it's not your usual guests, but I hope you've enjoyed it. My name's been Nicky Hawkins. Go and subscribe to We Are Tottenham TV. They've got a lot going on over there at the minute. Come and subscribe to me at West Ham Fan TV. If you ain't already, subscribe to DR Sports, and we'll be back on Monday live at 5. But thank you very much. One thing left for me to say, see you on Monday.